We've talked about this when we were doing an accumulator, but this is a standard technique to build a string. In other words, when we're looking at that label, how would we put the number 1 in it and then put 2 in it without wiping out the 1? In other words, we're going to be assigning something to the caption property of this label. Stuff that shows up in a label is its caption property. So we could say, let's just knock all this stuff out. We're going to say, put a 1 in that caption, okay? That 1 is going to show up in that label, no matter what they stick here, okay? I'm just saying, make whatever shows up in that label the number 1.
Big box.
In the big box, there'll be a little tiny 1 in it, all right? So, let's go here and run it, and I'm going to put 40 in here, and when I click on this, it puts a number 1 in the caption of that label, because that's what I told it to do. I didn't say to do anything with that int user. Well, now what if I wanted to put a 1 and a 2? Well, if I assign a 2 to that caption, it's going to replace the 1 with a 2. So what we do is we build a string, and we say, it starts out as an empty string. Now put a tab, ampersand against that empty string, a tab, and whatever this int counter is. It starts out as a 1. And assign that to the string. Now run through the loop again. Right now the string is a tab and a 1. And now int counter is 2. So we say put a tab and 2 and tack that onto the end of what the string used to be. And now store it back in what the string is now. Let's watch how that works as we go through this loop. I'll put a pause here and then we'll step through it. So we're going to fire the... Ooh, look at that. Now it is in the... It is in there. I did...
You didn't have to set the focus to do that.
That's right. I did make the tab index 0. But for some reason when I launched it, it didn't do that. Now I'm going to say, let's count to 6. All right? Just to make it easy. So I'm going to count to my number. I put a breakpoint here so it would stop the code so we can see what's in that string right now. It's empty. When you declare a string variable, it initializes it to an empty string. So that string is empty right now. Int counter starts out as 1. So what's int counter right now? Well, it hasn't gone into the loop yet. It hasn't executed that. Int counter is still 0 from here. We haven't set it to 1 yet. How's everybody doing on understanding what's happening in the loop? Maybe? This is how a for next loop works. Let's step through this code. I'm going to put a number 4 in here, okay? And now I'm going to click count to my number. So it says you click that button, that triggered that button's click event, which is going to run all the code associated with that button's click event. So now I'm going to step into it with an F8. Notice these things, they've already been initialized. Int user is 0, int counter is 0, string display is an empty string. Come here, there you go. So int user is 0, int counter is 0, string display is an empty string. Int counter is 0, because we haven't executed any of this code yet. When I press F8, it should run down to this statement, and it does. Notice int user is still 0, because it hasn't executed this statement yet. What's this statement going to do?
Whatever they enter in the text box is going to make it a number.
That's right. Whatever it says right now, I know what's in that text box. It's the string, 1 character string 4. When I take the val of it, that's going to convert it into the integer 4, and this assignment statement will assign it to that memory location. So I'm going to press F8, and as soon as I do,
It's now gonna be 4 down there.
int user is now 4. Okay, so everywhere we see int user, it's 4, because we grabbed it from that text box. Now int counter is still 0. We haven't run this loop yet. And string display is still empty. So let's see what's going to happen when we run this first statement. Int counter is going to become what? It's going to be 1. The first time you run this statement, it sets the counter to the start value, and it's going to keep going through until the adding 1 each time, adding the step value. If you don't specify it, it's 1. Remember, there's a start value, an end value. Those are required. Then there's a step where you could say step 3, and it would make 1, and then 4, and then 7, and then 10. But if you don't specify a step value, it's a positive 1. So int counter is going to become 1 the first time, then 2 the second time, then 3 the third time, and it's going to keep incrementing it until it hits int user. That's going to be its last time to go through the loop. Int counter just became 1. What are we saying to do with that? We're saying put a tab in front of it, concatenate it up against string display, which currently is nothing, and load that into here. So this thing, when we execute this, string display should become tab 4. I'm sorry, tab 1. Tab 1. Let's print that in the immediate window so that we see what's happening. We can float our mouse over it, but we could also see what's happening down here. Okay, so I'm going to execute this, and now notice string display is a tab followed by a 1, because we said take an empty string, slap a tab after it, and then slap a 1 after it. So string display is now tab 1. Now print that string down here. Did it print it? Doesn't appear to have. Never mind. Now, what is int counter? It's still 1, because we haven't executed the next yet. But as soon as we execute the next, it'll become a 2. So here it's 1. As soon as I press F8, it executes the next. It says int counter's now 2. Is that still between 1 and int user? Yes, it is, because int user is 4. So it said, since it's between that, I'm going to go into the loop again. String display was tab 1, but we're going to slap another tab after it and slap a 2 after that, and then store all that back in string display. So string display will be tab 1, what it used to be, plus concatenate tab 2, and store that all back in that same memory location. So we're building this string one chunk at a time, and then at the end we're going to say, now show that whole string in the label, the results. So now if we press F8, now it says string is tab 1, tab 2. Int counter is still 2. We execute next, int counter becomes 3. It goes into the loop again. It says now your string is tab 1, tab 2, and you can't see it, but it's tab 3. As soon as we hit next, int counter goes to 4, which is equal to the end value. So it says, aha, this is the last time through the loop. Now when it hits next, it'll turn int counter into 5, and it says, we don't go into the loop anymore because that's beyond the end value. So it kicks out of the loop, goes to the end sub, and now when we hit the end sub, it's not going to do anything, is it?
No, 'cause you got it wrong.
I commented out showing us the string. All right. I guess I wonder if I could back it up. Ooh, maybe? Yes. I did not know you could do that. Let's see if it works. String display is tab 1, tab 2, tab 3, tab, and we can't see the 4. So now it says nothing in the label yet. But as soon as we execute this statement, it says take whatever that string display is and slap it in the caption property of that label, which now has that in it, which now has that in it. Tab 1, tab 2, tab 3, tab 4. And now it ends, and we're done.